Hi guys, in today's video we are going to talk about the 10 biggest mistakes that foreigners make when they either travel or move out here to the Philippines. Stick around, we're going to discuss it. So I've done a video like this before and I mentioned a few mistakes. I wanted to dive a bit deeper into it and talk a little bit more in detail and even more mistakes. I had time to really think about things that I personally made mistakes on and mistakes that other people, you know, they tell me their stories and I'm like, oh yeah, you shouldn't have done that. And it's easy to look back and say, oh, you shouldn't have done that, when I've already made that mistake and I can tell you from experience and just from hearing the stories of others. So let's go ahead and jump into it. We're going to go into the first one, which is expectations versus reality. And this is a big one because I think that people set expectations maybe way too high or maybe just not realistic, and they get off the airplane and a few things. They expect to land and just see beautiful tropics, beaches, and you know, if you are landing right into Cebu or Manila, you're not going to see that. In fact, when you land in Manila and then you take a taxi out, really what you're going to experience and see is you're going to see a lot of poverty. You might see trash. Now, will you see big, beautiful malls and nice areas like Makati and BGC with great restaurants and things like that? Yes, but you're also going to be hit dead smack in the face with a lot of things that us Westerners aren't always used to. Things like extreme poverty, trash, things unorganized, the driving just kind of chaotic at best. So the other thing is a lot of people, they expect you know, just Filipinos just to be staring at them, falling all over their feet, flirting with them everywhere they go. And that is not always the case. But times have changed with social media and a lot more foreigners coming out. It is no longer a big surprise to see a foreigner, even in a small province village. Chances are you're not the first one who's been there. There's been others who have come there. So, and you go into places like Manila, Cebu, Subic, Angeles, Dumaguete, chances are they see foreigners every day. And so it's not like this big deal like, oh my God, there's a foreigner. So no matter what you hear on the YouTube or social media or whatever, they are not falling all over you. And so that is number one, expectations versus reality. Number two would be underestimating the cost of living. There are just way too many vlogs out there and written articles, blogs about living for $500 per month and living for, you know, even $1,000 per month, even $1,000. Can it be done? Yes. Will you have to give up a lot of niceties or Western amenities? Yeah, you will. So it depends on how you want to live. If you want to live completely a Filipino lifestyle, then sure, you could live for $500 a month. But most foreigners do not want to come out here and just barely exist and just get by and struggle. No, you come out here because you want to live a better life. You want your money goes further. You want to be able to go out to eat whenever you want, travel, go dating without it costing you over $100 for a date. You know, I don't even know what it costs anymore, but that was the last date I was on in the US, was around $130 for just dinner. So here you can go out easily for less than 1,000 pesos for two, easily. And even then you can do it much less. So yeah, the cost of living, be realistic, write down a realistic budget and have a realistic set income that's coming in that's going to cover your living expenses, medical emergencies, trips back home if there's an emergency that happens, things like that. So be a bit more realistic. Don't follow the vlogs that are saying you can live for $500 a month. It's just not realistic unless you're going to live dirt poor. Number three for me is no big commitment for the first 90 days or even up to 6 months, and it really depends on the person. For me, it's at least 90 days. That means settling into one city. Too many people, they watch vlogs or whatever, wherever they get their information, they land in one city and they say, oh, this is not really what I'm looking for. Some people get to Dumageddon, for example, and they say, oh, I love it, this is great. And 2 months later, they're like, this is not exactly what I was looking for. And they've already taken out a year lease. They went out and they bought a car, or they went out and bought furniture. Don't do any of that stuff. Just do Airbnb or do a fully furnished condo or apartment or house with the ability to get out. And that means don't put more than a 1 month deposit. Again, don't move your girlfriend in that you just met. Don't do anything that's going to commit yourself if you have been here less than 90 days up to 6 months, because you may get to the point where you say, this is not for me, this city, or this island is not for me, or even the Philippines is not for me, or this Filipina I'm dating. So don't do anything and like that. And that includes also things like, if you're dating, moving a girl in immediately, meeting her family, all those things. Don't do anything that's going to have long-term implications. No long-term commitments until you've been here over 90 days, or even better off, over 6 months. And this next one I briefly mentioned, but don't choose one spot based on videos or even the Filipina. Too many guys come out here and they've been chatting with one Filipina, and she lives in a certain city. Maybe let's say she lives in Bacolod, and you get to Bacolod and you've moved there because this one girl, and then a month goes by and things don't work out with her, and here you are living and you've already signed a year lease and done other things, all because of this one girl, and it didn't work out. So I always tell people it is much better to choose the place you want to live first and then find the girl. And then there's plenty of Filipinos who are more than willing to come and live with you in the area that you're at. Even if, for example, you want to live in Dumageddon, you can go meet a girl who's in Davao, who's probably more than willing to come and live with you in Dumageddon. After you feel you guys have put in the time and everything is good, they're probably more than open to that. So again, don't choose the spot immediately. Be flexible. There are a lot of great places around the Philippines. There's probably a spot for you. Just because there's one place you don't like doesn't mean the whole country is like that, or the whole island is like that. There's a lot of different places that you could find that you will be happier with. And sometimes it's not even, for example, when I moved to Cebu, I was living in one spot. I signed a lease almost after 4 days of being there, and I soon figured out, you know what? I wish I would have waited a little bit, because I really like this part of Cebu much better. But I had already signed into a lease and everything and started to buy stuff, and I didn't feel like moving. Take your time. Don't just settle in one place until you are 100% sure and have really researched it out well. The next one is, take some time to think about what you are losing. For example, there's some guys who come out here and they were avid hunters, avid fishermen, avid gun collectors. And fishing, can you do it? Yeah, not in the same capacity, not freshwater really. You can do ocean, you know, but not the same type of capacity as back in the West. A lot of people are big into fishing the lakes and rivers. I was just talking to a guy a little while ago who loves fishing for trout and walleye and things like that, and salmon up in Canada. That's stuff he has to give up. He loves hunting, and he had to give all that stuff up, and he came out to the Philippines, and even though he likes it, it's so much less expensive. The weather is much better. He doesn't have to deal with winters. He has decided to do 6 months here and 6 months in Canada, because he does not want to, he's not ready or prepared to give up the things that he loves so much. And so think about what you will lose by coming out to the Philippines. If there is a big list of things that you are just passionate about in the West, you may not be comfortable moving out to the Philippines. You may not be happy. And also, maybe a 6 months here and a 6 months there would work out better for you. So think about what you might lose. So the next one is focusing on one woman and committing to one woman before you've even set in the Philippines, or even really decided whether you like it, whether you like this place to live, and before you've maybe even dated around. Too many guys just get into these relationships and have committed to one girl without ever meeting her in person. And I'm still, guys tell me about it, and a lot of them work out, and that's fantastic. But a lot of them don't. And so I still tell people, don't plan your entire trip around one woman that you haven't met in person. You could get here and she ends up ghosting you. Maybe it was just a game the whole time, maybe to get some money from you. Or maybe she's a totally different person, when you meet her in person, because it's easy to put on your best self on camera and on chats versus spending 24/7 with each other. Even over a weekend, you start to get to know that person, the real person, versus online chats and chatting online. So don't put all your eggs in one basket immediately. Chat with a few girls, and if the first girl you meet turns out to be great, then you tell the other girls, number 2 or 3, that, hey, I've met somebody and I want to focus on her. I don't want a serial date or anything like that. Or other guys, they may get out here and it's better just to do some dating. Just because you're in the Philippines and it's easy to find a date doesn't mean it's easy to find the right girl. So don't just jump into a relationship immediately, especially if you've never met in person. All right, this next one is boredom and fun activities versus, I think a lot of people think they're going to move out here and that there's just going to be tons of things to do and they won't sit around bored. But guess what? I meet more expats that really end up being recluses. They don't really have many friends. Maybe the city they're living in doesn't have many expats living in it. And maybe they get out here and they end up losing all their pastimes. They don't have all the friends that they had before. And they end up sitting around watching TV, hanging out at coffee shops or hanging out at the bars all day. So make sure you have a list of activities of things that you can do when you're out here, or groups or friends. Get out and meet people, get out and date, find activities to do, or boredom will set in. And you do have to sometimes step out of your comfort zone. Even if you're an introvert, sometimes you got to be a bit of an extrovert. Next one is don't be flashy. Don't carry a ton of money. Don't carry a bunch of jewelry. Is it okay to dress nice? I actually tell people it's a good idea to dress nice. You can still dress nice and wear a t-shirt and a baseball cap. Just have nice shoes on. Don't have ratty t-shirts with stains and holes in it. I see more Westerners walking around with t-shirts with, looks like they just finished eating spaghetti and drinking coffee all over their shirt. Or it looks like they've had moths or rats in their drawers at home. So, dress presentable. It is very cheap to buy t-shirts and shorts and even nice sandals or what they call here in the Philippines slippers. So just because you want to blend in, you don't want to attract attention, doesn't mean you have to dress like a slob. So you can still dress nice, dress casually. You don't need to be wearing tuxedos, which would be totally impractical anyway in the Philippines. But dress nice. I mean, most of my shirts now are button shirts, just collared button shirts, light material, and all that stuff can be found on my Amazon store, my Geo Travel Essentials, on my website, geointhephilippines.com. And the last one is guys who think that they will come out here and maybe they're only making $1,000 a month, but they say to themselves, you know what, I can find some work. I saw a guy who found work in the Philippines, or I can do this. Well, guess what? The laws are set up on purpose to favor Filipinos. They want to employ Filipinos. The only time they want to employ a foreigner, it has to be something that you can bring to the table that a Filipino cannot do. For example, I worked the first 2.5 years when I moved out here, and I had landed the job before I ever stepped foot, so it was already set up. They took care of my visa, my work visa, and everything. But I had to interview with the Department of Labor and Employment, immigration, and they really wanted to know, okay, what are you doing, and why is this something that you know, that we can't just hire a Filipino to do? And at the time, I was the, I guess, English expert at the school. My job was to do the proofreading. I was training in American pronunciation to the Filipino English teachers. I was helping write curriculum, things like that. So they said, oh, okay, well, yeah, you're teaching American pronunciation, accent, things like that. So obviously, yes, a Filipino cannot do that job. So I was able to get the position. But, and I also knew other foreigners that were working in call centers, not answering the phones. They were like coaches. They would listen in on calls and say, hey, okay, you can't talk to Americans like this. They might misunderstand what you mean when you say wait for a while. Say, one moment, sir, I'll be right back on the phone with you, or things like that. So I saw some foreigners with positions like that. Other than that, it's almost impossible to find a job here. So don't think you're going to come out here and get a job and provide yourself good income, because it likely will not happen. Anyway, let me know what other things that you can think of down in the comments. Hopefully this video helped, and I will see you guys on the next video. Thank you so much.